what we found was that it's very difficult to coordinate attacks across a broad front in the cyber. And there's a few reasons for that, but probably the first thing to bear in mind is that this is the first time that cyber warfare has been unleashed alongside kinetic warfare in human history. So what that means is everybody is learning and everybody is trying to adapt. And so, I think there's a military saying that says no plan survives first contact with the enemy. And that was exactly the same in the cyber warfare area as well, that they thought they knew what to do, the Russians, they did it, and it had limited success. And the reason that it had limited success was because, part of the reason is a lot of our tools are built for espionage rather than warfare. So in the same way that there's a difference between spying and fighting, that's true too in the cyber domain. So tools and all of our offensive cyber has basically been built, sneak in, don't let anyone know that you're there, cause trouble at the appropriate time. That's sort of the philosophy of that. Whereas, and that's probably the equivalent of, say sleeper agents in espionage, or sometimes special forces operators in warfare, where you sort of get in behind the enemy lines, wait until the appropriate time, and then attack, and relatively localized. The military form of that is, a broad front, everyone knows you're coming because there's 1,000 tanks crossing the border. And cyber warfare is a bit the same. You're trying to attack not one network or not one power station, but all of the power stations all at the same time.
Yep.
And that's very difficult to coordinate. And coming back to that point earlier about numbers, it's relatively low numbers in terms of, spy forces, our intelligence agencies, as in people terms, the number of people that we have, are much smaller, for instance, than our army, our defence forces. So that same thing happens in what's been revealed by the war in Ukraine, is that there's that relative size gap in terms of people that you need to deploy. So while espionage, small number of people, cyber warfare actually requires a larger number of people, a sort of cyber army, to deliver all of these attacks across all of these networks all at the same time. And that's a difficult thing to do.
Do you think we're going to get to the point where that's going to be possible?
I think it will be. I think because everyone learns from every war and every battle. So there's all these observers around the world who are watching what is happening. And in the same way Western countries cooperate on intelligence, you can be sure that Russia and China and everyone else are cooperating on intelligence as well. And they are, these are the lessons that we learned. And the Chinese and everyone else will be, the Russians and all of those guys will all be sort of learning, well, okay, what do we need to do if we're going to do this properly? And they'll be trying to apply the same thing. So there's other lessons that the Ukrainians were able to pull together a large number of, they were able to do a very quick assessment. Their attitude was everyone's in uniform. And so they were able to do a very quick assessment of all of their cyber talent, pull them together under a national command, say these are our defence priorities and this is what we're trying to achieve. You work on this problem, you work on this problem, you work on that problem. And they're able to assemble their talent and deploy it very quickly. Sort of it was almost an army reserve type arrangement in terms of pulling people in and deploying them quickly. And I think in the end, that's sort of the future of cyber warfare. If the Russians had their time again, they would probably assemble that cyber army in advance, do the training and the exercises that they needed to do to make sure they could carry out those attacks across the networks, and then deliver those attacks in a much more coordinated and larger scale way. And in the same way, the implication for Australia is that we need to have a structure so we know who people are, where they are, how they work, what work they're doing, what their skills are, and then be able to occasionally run them through an exercise so that when we need to deploy them, we have the command and control structures, the information sharing structures that allow us to do that quickly.